what do you think will be the biggest crisis facing the royal family in the next 10 years?
I just think it's going to be something completely unexpected, because all of the past ones have been. I think when I think back to when I started covering the royals, which was like 2010, when William and Kate got engaged, and it was just celebration, celebration after celebration of weddings, babies, Queen Diamond Jubilee, longest reigning monarch, 90th birthday, all of those things. And then it completely changed. The story completely changed, and the focus was on Andrew, and the focus was on Harry and Meghan and how unhappy they were. And I mean, the Andrew thing had been rumbling along for a long time, yes, but I don't think I would have seen then that it would have come to the head that it did many years later, and he's had to step down. And same with Harry and Meghan. I would never have seen that coming, but when they became engaged. And it was just, when Harry would say sort of things, for example, when they issued that statement at the end of their South Africa tour, that was a huge deal, because they were really speaking in really strong terms about how they felt about things. And at the time, that was big, because we hadn't heard this insight. And then when you look now at how much insight we've had into everything, and the books there, I would never, ever have predicted that, ever. So I think, and COVID obviously totally unpredictable as well. So I just think it will be something unpredictable.
We've got to be prepared for, as royal journalists, you've got to be prepared for anything. I mean, this year, we thought this year would be this big year of peace, of travel, with foreign tours, and it'd be nice for, a calm year. And then we had the King and the Princess of Wales come up,
at the start of this year, again, another, exactly. It was completely out of the blue. No one was expecting to get either of those announcements.
What do you think Harry and Meghan are hoping to get out of this trip to Colombia?
Well, I think that what I don't really understand is how this fits into their long-term purpose and the long-term purpose of Archewell. I think in a short term, you can see that there's going to be a huge amount of attention on this tour, and probably they feel that they want to highlight these areas that they've said, women's empowerment and the military community, and it all sounds, like the intention is very positive. And I think they'll be hoping that they can shine a light on the things that they think are important. But as I said, if they haven't, how much independent control have they had over this programme, and how much knowledge do they have of it already, or have they been given independently of the areas and the projects that they're visiting? I don't get the long-term thing. I don't get that. My personal feeling. Sorry, just to jump in, but I always felt that they work best when it's very clear what they're doing. And I think Invictus is the strongest example of that. People really understand what it is, what it stands for. It's an event as well as a community. And when they go out there and talk about Invictus, it feels very meaningful and very powerful, and it resonates with everyone. And I feel that they should be focusing, it's just my opinion, I'm not advising them, I don't think that would ever happen, that they should be identifying some other really key, really specific areas where they can focus on and do a similar thing, and people will really get, yes, they're doing this work on, for example, women's empowerment, they're doing it time and time again, and in these very specific ways, and everything feeds into that. This feels a little bit vaguer. This trip feels much more vague in terms of how it fits into their long-term plan. Mm-hmm. So what were you going to say about?
I was going to say, you've obviously seen Harry and Meghan in action on royal tours. How do you expect them to be received? So Harry, we talk about this kind of almost every week, that when he is on engagements, when he was a working royal, he was popular. People, reacted very well to him. Meghan didn't take to being a working royal. She didn't spend a lot of time, but she did do several tours like this, actual royal tours representing the UK government, not representing themselves and representing Archewell in a Latin American country. But you've seen them on the ground in, I think, was it South Africa? You must have seen them.
Yeah. So was this before you? Yeah. So it was Morocco. Was there when Meghan was pregnant, actually, with Archie? They went to Morocco on a very short visit, and then a much bigger visit where they took Archie to South Africa in 2019. And before that as well, obviously, observed Harry for a long time. I always think Harry was so popular as a working royal for sort of maybe one of the reasons, almost the same reason that he can be unpopular now, is that he didn't hold back, He was always, in every situation, you felt that he was really being very authentic and very honest. And I think sometimes his PR people were like, okay, like that's enough. But because if you were talking to him, he would just talk, and he would tell you what he thought. And I think that was what people liked about him. And obviously, he's been incredibly open since he left the royal family, and that has turned some people off. But he was, there's always been a real authenticity to him. And I think that he and Meghan, when they were doing trips together, it felt very powerful. It did. It felt very powerful, and it felt like a really exciting time for the royal family to have this couple. We sort of talk about them as appealing to a new generation, which is interesting because they're pretty much the same age as William and Kate, but somehow it felt like they had this whole younger audience that they were appealing to. And I thought, when they went to South Africa, when Meghan, right at the start of that trip, she made a speech about being a woman of colour, and it, just felt really powerful. And that whole tour of South Africa felt so positive. And then at the very end, the story completely changed because they announced that they were suing the Mail on Sunday. And that was really, I think, the start of everything shifting. And it was the start of, I think, the floodgates opening and all of that stuff that had been simmering underneath the surface about how unhappy they were, about how angry they were with the media. That all kind of started from then on to really come out. And that was the point at which what the royal household has sort of contained a bit, the true strength of the fallouts and everything just all came out after that.
But in many ways, that's kind of when they took control, or they attempted to take control, and now they are in control of what they're doing by taking Archwell and doing a tour of Colombia.
Yeah, I mean, I always said, people would say about them, why are they going out and being public? Because they wanted privacy. This is hypocritical. That was one of the accusations that was always thrown at them. And I always said, they never said that they wanted to have a totally private life. They actually said they wanted a different kind of public life. They wanted to have control. They didn't want to have this thing of being taxpayer funded hanging over their heads that made them feel that they had obligations and had to agree to certain types of access from the media that they didn't want to have. And they wanted to set up their own thing and to have control, and they do have that now. I think the question is whether or not they can be as powerful as they were when they were in the royal family, because the weight that they had behind them of the institution and of the access to everything the British government has access to is obviously very different to what they have now. But they have achieved what they wanted to achieve.